stories don't define you. How you tell them will. Hi, I'm Sarah Elkins, your host and chief story maker of Elkins Consulting. We share stories for many reasons, to persuade, to entertain, to connect. What we sometimes forget is the impact of the stories we tell ourselves. Whether you're sharing personal stories or business stories, how you share them makes a difference in how you remember them and in how you're perceived by the people you're interacting with. When you figure out which stories to share, difficult bosses and coworkers, successes, failures, the next step is to develop how you share them. Have you figured out your patterns, your roles in those successes, the discomfort, and your challenges? In this series, you'll hear stories that will resonate with you. You'll nod your head in understanding, and then we'll dig into the lessons from each of those. How many times have you been sharing a story only to be interrupted by a person eager to share his own? When I'm working with clients on communication skills, I remind them to listen for understanding, not to respond. But during this podcast, I'm asking you to listen and consider your own related stories, to listen and consider which stories in your life might have impacted you in a similar way. Stories connect us. They help us relate to each other and deepen our understanding of experiences in our lives. Analogies can give us an entirely different perspective and help us create a more visual representation of an emotional experience. I wrote the following analogy to help me put things in perspective when I was having a hard time in a job that was not only a bad fit for me and my skills, it was a job that I allowed to sink into my confidence and my health. Now, years later, each time I reread it, I'm reminded to think about where I am, where I want to be, and how I want to get there. Analogies can be silly or serious, and sometimes a little bit of both. But if you can make an analogy both, you will connect with your audience, bringing out common expressions of hope and frustration in a highly visual, imaginative way. When I was at the end of my patience with the job I described, I reached out to a few mentors for help. I asked one friend to visit with me and provide ideas and guidance, and I hoped for some concrete advice. But what I got was not at all what I had envisioned, and as I walked out of her office, I thought it might have been a big waste of time. Lucky for me, the year had been one of opportunities for tremendous growth, personally and professionally. So instead of leaving my thoughts there, I realized there had to be a reason I went seeking her guidance. I knew there must have been something in that conversation I could use and apply to my experiences. And when I gave myself time to process the words she used, I realized she gave me the beginning of a powerful analogy that I could apply, reapply, and continue to reinvent to serve different situations. She said, "Sometimes I feel like I'm in my car on the highway stuck behind a big truck. I look up at that end car on the car carrier and pray it doesn't fall off the trailer onto my head." It took a few days, but then I realized how her analogy applied to my situation. For months, I had been driving my car along the highway, stuck behind a big truck. Because I have a tendency toward being impulsive, don't laugh, I had been driving very close to the back of the truck. I had been so incredibly frustrated being stuck there that I kept swerving out to check for an opportunity to pass the truck, only to find a blind curve or a line of vehicles coming toward me. So I had to swerve back behind the truck, more and more angry and impatient. Not only was I frustrated and feeling all those muscles and tendons in my neck get painful and stiff, I was making everyone else in the car uncomfortable. I was driving so close to the truck that I couldn't see anything I was passing outside the car. Beautiful landscapes were lost to me. All I could see was the dust and debris the truck was kicking up into my windshield, and I was breathing the fumes coming out the back. I missed the music playing on my radio and the conversations going on in the back seat, conversations that were precious and unlikely to happen again. I was driving so close to that inexperienced and sometimes cruel truck driver that I was making that driver make more significant and dangerous errors because he was watching my car come so close. I had choices to make. I could keep swerving to check whether I had an opportunity to pass, not really caring whether the opportunity took me toward a positive destination, or I could sit back in my seat and gain a little space between me and the truck. I could keep being frustrated and angry at that damn truck in front of me, or I could make some space between us so I could see opportunities from a distance and gauge whether they might be right for me and my passengers. I could choose to see the truck much more clearly by giving it room, so I could learn more about it and be able to avoid trouble, and possibly even help. I wasn't in denial. I knew that truck would cloud my view here and there, kicking up big gusts, clouds of snow and rain, and that I wouldn't always be able to keep from getting frustrated. But with the space I was creating between me and that truck, I could at least try to enjoy the music, the view, and the passengers in my car. Eventually, that truck was going to get off the highway, or I was going to find a good opportunity to pass. I couldn't just get off the highway at the next exit because there were people in the car that were relying on me to keep on trucking, so to speak. And as one of my dearest friends said, "You have great company in the car." I guess it's no surprise that I love road trips. My sister would say that I have always lived my life knowing that it's not about the destination, but about the journey. So here I am, driving my car and usually making better choices. I enjoy the view, including some interesting and sometimes dangerous and frustrating weather. I'll keep on driving behind that truck until I find the right opportunity for me and my passengers. I'll continue to be grateful for the comfort of my car, the comfort of having friends and family traveling with me, and I'll most definitely sit back and enjoy the music. What's your truck right now? Have there been bigger trucks in your way? How will you handle the next slow-moving truck you're stuck behind? I'll bet you have other analogies that you can write right into this one. And I would encourage you to do that. Because, different from stories, this creates a visual representation of an emotional experience that others may definitely relate to. Thank you for listening to Your Stories Don't Define You, How You Share Them Will. Please visit my website for more podcast episodes, blog posts, and information about how I can help you develop and share your stories at elkinsconsulting.com.
How could you tell me that you're going away? Don't say